Captain Jake Morrison stared at the display screen in disbelief. The readings made no sense. 3 massive objects hung in space near Proxima Centauri, each one larger than Earth's biggest city. They glowed with soft blue light and seemed to pulse like living hearts. Distance? Jake asked his navigator. 200,000 kilometers and closing, sir, Lieutenant Scott Miller replied. His voice shook slightly. The UES Liberty was humanity's first deep space exploration vessel. After decades of planning and construction, they had finally reached another star system. Jake had expected to find empty space or maybe some asteroids. He had not expected to find anyone waiting for them. Dr. Lisa Hayes leaned over her instruments at the science station. Her dark hair fell across her face as she worked frantically to understand what they were seeing. The energy readings are incredible, Captain. These ships are powered by something we've never seen before. Ships? Jake moved closer to her station. You're certain they're artificial? Absolutely. And they're scanning us right now. I'm picking up some kind of probe beam. Chief Engineer Ben Parker called from his station near the back of the bridge. Captain, whatever they're doing is affecting our systems. Power levels are fluctuating across the board. Jake felt his stomach tighten. The Liberty carried a crew of 200 Earth's best and brightest. They had traveled 4 years to reach this system. Now they might have stumbled into something, far beyond their understanding. The main screen flickered and changed. Instead of showing the alien ships, it now displayed a face. Jake stepped backward in shock. The being on the screen looked almost human, but its skin had a crystalline quality that caught and reflected light. Its eyes glowed with the same blue energy as the ship's. Primitive vessel, the being spoke. Its voice came through clearly despite the obvious differences in language and biology. Some kind of translation system was at work. You have entered sovereign territory of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. State your purpose. Jake straightened his uniform and moved to the center of the bridge. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force vessel Liberty. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship with other civilizations. The alien's expression did not change. Earth Defense Force. Your species designation is unknown to us. Your technology appears to be an early chemical propulsion stage. How did you travel so far with such primitive methods? We've been traveling for 4 years, Jake replied honestly. This is our first mission beyond our home system. Something that might have been amusement flickered across the alien's features. 4 years. How quaint. Our vessels can cross the galaxy in less time. The being leaned forward slightly. I am Admiral Kethavar of the Zephyrian Third Fleet. Your species will immediately surrender and prepare for integration into the Empire as a labor caste. Dr. Hayes looked up from her station. Labor caste? Your primitive technology suggests you would be suitable for manual labor on industrial worlds, Admiral Kethavar explained with casual indifference. Do not be concerned. The Empire provides food, shelter, and purpose to all subject species. You will find your new role satisfying. Jake felt anger building in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. We appreciate the offer, Admiral, but humanity governs itself. We're not looking to join any empire. The alien's eyes flared brighter. This was not a request, Captain Morrison. This was an imperial decree. You have 7 of your standard days to comply. Your vessels will return to your homeworld and inform your government of their new status. And if we refuse? Jake asked. Admiral Kethavar touched something on his command chair. The main screen shifted to show the asteroid field near Proxima Centauri. A massive rock, easily the size of Earth's moon, drifted slowly through space. Observe, the Admiral said. One of the alien ships turned toward the asteroid. A beam of pure blue energy lanced out from its hull. Where it touched the asteroid, matter simply ceased to exist. In less than 10 seconds, the entire massive rock was gone, leaving only empty space and a few wisps of glowing gas. The bridge of the Liberty fell completely silent. Ben Parker's face had gone pale. Even Dr. Hayes had stopped working to stare at the display. Your compliance is expected, not requested, Admiral Kethavar continued. 7 days. Do not disappoint the Empire. The transmission ended. The alien ships began to move away, accelerating to impossible speeds before vanishing entirely. Jake sank into his captain's chair. Around him, his crew slowly returned to their duties, but he could see the fear in their faces. They had come, looking for new worlds and new friends. Instead, they had found masters who saw humanity as nothing more than potential slaves. "Ben," Jake called to his engineer. "How long to get a message back to Earth?" "At light speed, about 4 years, sir. Same as it took us to get here." Jake shook his head. "Too long. Is there any way to speed it up?" Dr. Hayes turned from her station. "I recorded everything about their technology that I could. If our scientists can figure out how their faster-than-light travel works, maybe we can build a communication system." "Do it," Jake ordered. "Work with Ben. I want options, and I want them fast." Scott Miller looked up from his navigation console. "Captain, should we head home?" Jake thought about Admiral Kethavar's casual dismissal of humanity. The alien had spoken about enslaving an entire species like he was discussing the weather. The demonstration with the asteroid showed that the Zephyrians had the power to destroy Earth completely if they chose. But Jake also remembered why he had joined the space program. His grandfather had fought in Earth's last great war, refusing to surrender even when the odds seemed impossible. His father had helped build the first ships that reached Mars, pushing beyond what anyone thought possible. Humanity had never been the strongest or the fastest, but they had always been stubborn. "Set course for Earth," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed, and send out probes to every system between here and home. If these Zephyrians want a war, they're going to find that humans don't make good slaves." Dr. Hayes looked up from her instruments. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout this region of space. I think we've stumbled into the edge of something much bigger than just 3 ships." "How much bigger?" Jake asked. She checked her readings twice before answering. "I think we found an empire that spans thousands of star systems, Captain, and now they know we exist." Jake nodded grimly. 7 days to save humanity. It didn't seem like nearly enough time, but it would have to do. The Liberty turned toward home, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, space returned to its normal darkness, but somehow it felt less empty than before. The galaxy had noticed Earth. Now humanity would have to prove they deserved to remain free. Dr. Marcus Webb had not slept in 3 days. His laboratory beneath the Colorado mountains buzzed with activity as dozens of scientists worked around the clock. Coffee cups and food containers covered every available surface between computer, terminals, and experimental equipment. "Show me the energy readings again," Marcus demanded, rubbing his tired eyes. His assistant, Dr. Janet Kim, pulled up the data that Captain Morrison's ship had transmitted from Proxima Centauri. "The power signature is unlike anything we've seen. It's not nuclear, not chemical, not even antimatter." Marcus studied the patterns on his screen. The Zephyrian ships had displayed energy levels that should have been impossible. No known power source could generate that much energy in such a compact form. "Wait," Marcus said suddenly. "Look at this frequency pattern. It matches stellar radiation, but it's concentrated and directed." Janet leaned closer. "You think they're drawing power directly from stars?" "Not just drawing power," Marcus replied, excitement building in his voice. "I think they're manipulating stellar output itself. They're using stars like we use batteries." Across the country in Washington, President Helen Carter sat in the Situation Room surrounded by military advisors and scientists. General Tony Adams, head of Earth's combined military forces, pointed at a holographic display showing Earth's defense capabilities. "We have 200 combat-ready spacecraft," General Adams reported. "Most are designed for asteroid mining or Mars patrol duties. None of them were built to fight a war against advanced aliens." Commander Amy Foster, the youngest person in the room at 35, stood up from her chair. "General, with respect, we're thinking about this wrong. We can't match their technology, so we need to find another way to win." "Such as?" President Carter asked. Amy activated a different display. "Every species that becomes dependent on abundant energy develops weaknesses. Look at our own history. When oil became cheap and plentiful, We built our entire civilization around it. When supplies got disrupted, everything fell apart. Dr. Lisa Hayes, who had returned from the Proxima mission just hours earlier, nodded agreement. Commander Foster is right. The Zephyrians showed no concern about energy efficiency. Their ships were massive and powerful, but they seemed to assume unlimited power would always be available. President Carter looked around the room. So how do we disrupt an alien empire's power supply? Dr. Webb's voice came through the communication system from Colorado. Madam President, I think I have an answer. If the Zephyrians are manipulating stellar energy directly, they must be using some kind of quantum field manipulation. We might be able to create interference patterns that disrupt their connection to stellar power sources. In 6 days? General Adams asked skeptically. We have to try, Marcus replied. It's the only advantage we have. They expect us to fight with primitive weapons. They won't expect us to attack their power supply. In orbit around Earth, Captain Ryan Clark piloted his scout ship toward the edge of the solar system. His mission was to watch for the Zephyrian fleet, while Earth scientists worked frantically to develop new weapons. Control, this is Scout 7, Ryan reported. I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching from the direction of Alpha. Centauri, Commander Foster's voice crackled through the communication system. How many ships, Captain? Ryan checked his instruments 3 times before answering. Control, you're not going to believe this. I count over 1,000 vessels. This isn't a small fleet. This is an invasion armada. On Earth, the news sent shockwaves through the government. President Carter authorized the immediate mobilization of every available spacecraft. Mining ships, research vessels, even luxury yachts were pressed into military service. Lieutenant Scott Miller worked with a team of engineers to install Dr. Webb's experimental stellar disruption matrix on as many ships as possible. The device was completely untested, but it was humanity's only hope. The theory is sound, Scott explained to Captain Kelly Rogers as they installed the device on her ship, the UES Warrior. We create a quantum interference pattern that should disrupt their connection to stellar energy, but we've never tested it against actual alien technology. Captain Rogers examined the device. It was barely larger than a briefcase, but according to Dr. Webb, it could theoretically cut off an entire fleet from its power supply. What happens if it doesn't work, she asked. Scott looked uncomfortable. Then we're all probably going to die. At the Lunar Military Academy, Colonel Danny Lee trained Special Forces units in zero-gravity combat techniques. If humanity's ships could get close enough to the alien vessels, boarding parties might be able to capture Zephyrian technology. Remember, Danny told his Marines, these aliens have been in space for thousands of years, but they've probably never had to fight hand-to-hand combat. They're used to destroying enemies from a distance with energy weapons. Get close enough and we might have the advantage. The training was brutal and exhausting, but the Marines pushed themselves harder than ever before. They knew they were preparing to fight for the survival of their species. Dr. Webb finally achieved a breakthrough on the 5th day. Working with quantum field equations that pushed the boundaries of human understanding, he created a device that could generate interference patterns in the same frequency ranges the Zephyrians used for stellar manipulation. It should work, he explained to President Carter during an emergency briefing. But the range is limited. Our ships will have to get very close to the alien vessels to activate the disruption field. How close? General Adams asked. Close enough that if it doesn't work immediately, they'll be destroyed before they can retreat, Marcus admitted. President Carter looked around the room at her advisors. In less than 24 hours, the most powerful alien fleet in the galaxy would arrive at Earth. Humanity's response would determine whether the human race remained free or spent the rest of eternity as slaves. Do it, she ordered. Prepare every ship we have. Install the disruption devices on everything that can fly, and pray that our scientists are as smart as they think they are. Admiral Jake Morrison, newly promoted to command Earth's combined fleet, stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the UES Defiant. Through the view screen, he could see dozens of human ships taking their positions throughout the solar system. Each ship carried a crew that knew they were probably flying to their deaths, but not one of them had refused the mission. Humanity had always been at its best when facing impossible odds. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his communications officer reported. Jake opened a channel to every ship in the fleet. "This is Admiral Morrison. In a few hours, we're going to face an enemy that has conquered the galaxy. They have better weapons, better ships, and better technology. But they don't have something that humanity has never lost: the refusal to give up." He paused, looking out at the stars where his enemy was approaching. "They think they're coming to collect slaves. They're about to learn that humans don't make good slaves. All ships, prepare for battle. Today we show the galaxy what humanity is made of." The fleet acknowledged his transmission and settled in to wait. Earth hung behind them, blue and beautiful and worth fighting for. Somewhere in the darkness ahead, an alien armada approached with confidence born of 1,000 victories. But they had never fought humans before. Admiral Jake Morrison watched his tactical display as the Zephyrian armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. The alien ships appeared like falling stars, their crystalline hulls catching and reflecting the light of the sun. There were so many of them that they seemed to form a second constellation in the darkness of space. "Final count, sir," Lieutenant Scott Miller reported from his navigation station. 1,243 vessels. The smallest ones are twice the size of our largest battleship. Jake nodded grimly. Earth's entire fleet numbered just 96 ships, most of them converted civilian vessels with hastily installed weapons. The odds were more than 12 to 1, and that didn't account for the vast technological advantage the aliens possessed. "Communications. Open a channel to the enemy fleet," Jake ordered. The main screen flickered and showed Admiral Kethvar on the bridge of his flagship. The Zephyrian commander looked exactly as Jake remembered from their first encounter, but now there was something different in his crystalline features. Confidence had been replaced by cold determination. "Captain Morrison," Kethvar said, his translation system rendering his words in perfect English. "You have been promoted, I see. It matters little. Your 7 days have expired. Surrender now, and your species will be granted the mercy of slavery. Continue to resist, and we will cleanse your world entirely." Jake stood straighter on his bridge. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, their faces tense but determined. "Admiral Kethvar, humanity has considered your offer carefully. Our response is simple: we refuse." The alien's eyes flared brighter with what might have been anger or amusement. "Then you have chosen extinction over servitude. Very well. All ships, commence planetary cleansing operations." The transmission ended, and the Zephyrian fleet began to move toward Earth. Their ships accelerated smoothly, powered by energies drawn directly from the sun itself. Within minutes, they would be in range to begin their attack on humanity's homeworld. "All ships, this is Morrison," Jake broadcast to his fleet. "Execute Battle Plan Alpha. Remember, get close enough to activate the disruption fields, then hold your positions no matter what happens." The human fleet scattered throughout the solar system began to converge on the approaching alien armada. Captain Kelly Rogers led the first wave in her ship, the UES Warrior. Her crew had volunteered for what was essentially a suicide mission: get close enough to the enemy to test Dr. Webb's experimental weapon. "Disruption device charging," her science officer reported. "Range to target 50,000 kilometers. Hold steady," Kelly ordered. Her ship shook as Zephyrian energy beams began to probe their position. The aliens were testing their defenses, not yet committed to full-scale attack. 40,000 kilometers, her navigator called out. A beam of blue fire lanced out from the nearest Zephyrian ship, striking the UES Warrior directly. Kelly felt her ship shudder as energy screens overloaded, and hull plates began to melt under the incredible heat. "Disruption device ready," her science officer shouted over the alarm. "Sounds, fire," Kelly commanded. The stellar disruption matrix activated, sending waves of quantum interference toward the Zephyrian fleet. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the alien ships began to go dark. On the bridge of Admiral Kethvar's flagship, warning signals filled the air as his ship's power systems fluctuated wildly. "What is happening?" he demanded. His chief engineer consulted frantically with his instruments. Admiral, something is interfering with our stellar collection systems. We're losing power across the fleet. Kethvar stared at his displays in disbelief. No primitive species should have been able to affect Zephyrian technology, yet somehow, the humans had found a way to cut his ships off from their power source. Switch to emergency power, he ordered. All ships engage the humans at close range. If they want to fight with primitive weapons, we'll accommodate them. Without their stellar power systems, the Zephyrian ships were still formidable, but they were no longer invincible. Across the solar system, human ships closed with their alien counterparts and space erupted into brutal close-range combat. Captain Chris Nelson led a squadron of converted mining ships against a cluster of Zephyrian vessels near Mars. His ships were crude and ugly compared to the elegant alien craft, but they were built tough for asteroid mining operations. Ram them, Chris ordered when his weapons proved ineffective against Zephyrian armor. These ships were built to break rocks. Let's see how they do against crystal. The human mining ships slammed into the alien vessels like hammers striking glass. Zephyrian hulls, designed for elegance and energy efficiency rather than physical impact, cracked and shattered under the assault. Throughout the solar system, similar battles raged. Commander Danny Lee led boarding parties onto disabled Zephyrian ships, his Marines fighting hand-to-hand with alien crew members in the corridors of crystalline vessels. They're not used to physical combat, Danny reported over his communicator, as his team secured an alien engine room. They depend too much on their technology. In a knife fight, humans have the advantage. But the battle was taking a terrible toll on humanity's forces. For every alien ship destroyed, Earth lost 3 or 4 of its own vessels. Captain Kelly Rogers died when her ship finally succumbed to battle damage, but not before her crew had successfully disrupted an entire squadron of enemy vessels. Admiral Jake Morrison watched the tactical display with growing concern. His plan was working, but humanity was running out of ships faster than they were destroying alien ones. At this rate, they would achieve victory only by losing every vessel in their fleet. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "I'm receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian flagship." Admiral Kethvar appeared on the main screen again, but this time his crystalline features showed something Jake had not expected. Respect. "Human Admiral," Kethvar said, "your species has proven more capable than our intelligence indicated. You have cost the Empire more ships in one battle than we have lost in the last century. However, your victory is temporary. Even without stellar power, we still outnumber you significantly." Jake studied the alien commander's face. There was something different in his expression, a calculation that hadn't been there before. "Are you offering to negotiate, Admiral?" "I am offering you a chance to die with honor," Kethvar replied. "Withdraw your remaining ships, and I will ensure that your homeworld's destruction is quick and painless. Continue to fight, and I will make your species suffer for the inconvenience you have caused." Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. They had lost friends and shipmates in the battle, but none of them showed any sign of backing down. Dr. Lisa Hayes, now serving as his science advisor, caught his eye and nodded slightly. "Admiral Kethvar," Jake said, "humanity has never learned how to surrender. We're going to keep fighting until one of us is dead." The alien commander's expression shifted to what might have been admiration. "Then you will die as warriors. It is more honor than most species achieve. Resume attack." The battle continued with renewed fury. Human ships fought with desperate courage, but the mathematics of the engagement were inescapable. Humanity was losing. Then Dr. Webb's voice crackled over the communications system from his laboratory on Mars. "Admiral Morrison, I've been monitoring the battle. The disruption fields are working better than expected. If you can get ships close enough to their command vessel, we might be able to disrupt their entire fleet simultaneously." Jake looked at his tactical display. The Zephyrian flagship was heavily protected by layers of escort vessels. Reaching it would require sacrificing most of his remaining fleet. "All ships," Jake broadcasted, "converge on the alien flagship. This is our chance to end this war. I won't lie to you, most of us probably won't survive. But if we succeed, Earth will be free." The human fleet turned toward Admiral Kethavar's massive command ship like moths drawn to a flame. They flew through waves of enemy fire, their hulls burning and their crews dying, but still they pressed forward. As Jake's own ship, the UES Defiant, closed with the alien flagship, he realized something remarkable had happened. Humanity had done the impossible. They had fought the most powerful empire in the galaxy to a standstill. Now came the hard part: winning. Admiral Kethavar's flagship limped away from the solar system, with less than 200 ships remaining from his once mighty armada. The crystalline hull of his command vessel bore scars from human weapons, and several of his key systems remained offline. For the first time in his 3-century military career, he had been defeated. "Damage report," he ordered his chief engineer. "Stellar collection systems are completely disrupted," came the reply. "Emergency power is holding, but we cannot engage hyperspace travel until the quantum interference dissipates. We are essentially trapped in normal space." Kethavar studied the tactical displays showing the aftermath of the battle. Over 1,000 Zephyrian vessels destroyed or disabled. The humans had lost nearly their entire fleet as well. But they had achieved something unprecedented. They had proven that the Empire could be beaten. More disturbing were the reports from his boarding party recovery teams. Human soldiers had not only fought effectively in close combat, but had systematically captured Zephyrian technology and equipment. Even in defeat, they had been planning for the future. "Communications, prepare a priority transmission to the High Council," Kethavar commanded. "Encrypt it with Omega-level security codes." Hours later, on the crystal palace orbiting the galaxy's central black hole, Empress Veltara reviewed Admiral Kethavar's report with growing disbelief. Her advisors, representatives of dozens of ancient species that comprised the Empire's ruling council, murmured among themselves in languages that predated human civilization. "A single primitive world defeated an entire battle fleet?" asked Chancellor Morden, his insectoid features clicking with agitation. "This is impossible. Admiral Kethavar must be exaggerating to excuse his failure." Empress Veltara silenced the discussion with a gesture. Her species had ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia through careful calculation and overwhelming force. The destruction of Kethavar's fleet represented the first major military defeat in over 1,000 years. "Show me the technical analysis," she ordered. The holographic display filled with data captured during the battle. The human ships were indeed primitive by Imperial standards, but they had exhibited capabilities that defied expectations. More troubling, their stellar disruption. Technology represented a fundamental threat to Zephyrian civilization. "They have learned to interfere with stellar manipulation," observed Science Counselor Linera, her crystalline features reflecting the data displays. "If this technology spreads to other species, it could destabilize the entire Imperial power structure." Empress Veltara nodded grimly. The Empire's dominance depended on energy abundance. Every world, every ship, every aspect of Zephyrian society was built around unlimited power drawn directly from stars. If that advantage disappeared, their technological superiority would crumble. "Mobilize the 1st, 2nd, and 4th fleets," she commanded. "This human infestation must be eliminated before it spreads, and activate our sleeper assets among the tributary species. We cannot allow any other worlds to develop similar technologies." Meanwhile, on Earth, the victory celebration was tempered by the sobering reality of humanity's losses. Nearly every family had lost someone in the battle, and Earth's orbital shipyards worked around the clock to rebuild the fleet. Dr. Marcus Webb, now appointed as head of Earth's new Alien Technology Research Division, supervised teams of scientists who were dissecting captured Zephyrian equipment. The alien technology was incredibly advanced, but it showed a curious limitation. Everything was designed around abundant energy with no consideration for efficiency or backup systems. "They're like a civilization that never learned to use matches, because they always had electricity," he explained to President Carter during a briefing. "Incredibly sophisticated but completely dependent on their power source." Chief Scientist Janet Kim worked alongside him, leading efforts to integrate Zephyrian energy systems with human engineering. "We're making progress on hybrid designs," human backup systems combined with alien power sources, the best of both approaches. In the shipyards orbiting Mars, Commander Amy Foster oversaw construction of Earth's new hybrid fleet. The ships were larger than previous human designs but still retained the rugged construction that had served them well in the battle. Captain Chris Nelson, one of the few surviving squadron leaders from the original battle, tested the new UES, Vengeance. The ship combined human durability with adapted Zephyrian energy systems, but with multiple redundant power sources to prevent the kind of total failure that had crippled the alien fleet. "She's fast, well-armed, and tough," Chris reported, after his first test flight. "More importantly, if someone disrupts our main power system, we have 3 backup systems that can keep us fighting." But Earth's victory had not gone unnoticed by other species within the Empire. On worlds throughout the galaxy, subjugated peoples watched recordings of the battle that spread through hidden communication networks. On the industrial world of Karath 7, mining supervisor Grelmar of the rock-eating Torani people gathered his work crews in secret. For 6 centuries, his species had labored in Zephyrian-controlled mines, their natural ability to process raw minerals making them valuable slaves. "The humans proved the Empire can be beaten," he told his followers. "Their ships went dark just like ours would if we could disrupt the power systems." Similar conversations were happening across dozens of worlds. Species that had submitted to imperial rule centuries ago began to remember what freedom felt like. Dr. Lisa Hayes, now serving as humanity's first ambassador to alien species, received the first contact from the Torani through carefully encrypted communications. "We want to help you fight the Empire," Grelmar transmitted from his hidden base. "My people know the locations of major imperial supply routes. We can provide intelligence and support." Within weeks, similar offers arrived from the aquatic Mariani of the water worlds, the energy-based Luxori of the gas giant systems, and even some members of the machine intelligence collective known as the Synthesis. The Empire's victory over humanity had been intended as a demonstration of imperial power. Instead, it had become a rallying cry for rebellion. Captain Ryan Clark led the new human intelligence operations, using modified ships to make contact with resistance groups throughout Imperial space. His missions were dangerous, requiring him to sneak past Imperial patrols and communicate with species that risked execution simply for talking to humans. "The Empire is losing control," he reported during a secure transmission to Earth. "Everywhere we go, we find species that are ready to fight. They just needed someone to show them it was possible to win." Admiral Jake Morrison, now in overall command of Earth's military forces, studied intelligence reports showing Imperial fleet movements throughout the galaxy. The Zephyrians were mobilizing massive forces for a counterattack, but they were also dealing with unrest on dozens of worlds. "They can't fight a galactic rebellion and launch a major assault on Earth at the same time," he explained to President Carter. "But if we're going to take advantage of this situation, we need to act fast." The plan that emerged was audacious even by human standards. Rather than wait for the Empire to attack Earth again, humanity would strike first at the heart of Imperial power. A combined fleet of human ships and alien allies would assault the Empire's capital system, while rebellion erupted across the galaxy. Lieutenant Scott Miller, now promoted to captain of the experimental ship UES Innovation, prepared for the most dangerous mission in human history. His vessel carried the most advanced stellar disruption matrix ever built, capable of affecting an entire star system. "The target is Zephyr Prime," Admiral Morrison explained during the final briefing. "If we can disrupt their capital system's power grid, the Empire will lose coordination with their outer territories. The rebellions will have time to establish themselves." Captain Julie Brooks, commanding the heavy assault ship UES Thunder, raised a concern that everyone was thinking about. "Admiral, Zephyr Prime is defended by thousands of ships and orbital platforms. Even with our allies, we're talking about a one-way mission." Jake nodded solemnly. "The Empire has ruled the galaxy. For 3,000 years, they won't give up easily. But someone has to light the spark that burns down their empire. It might as well be us." As Earth's hybrid fleet prepared for departure, news arrived that changed everything. Empress Veltara herself was leading the Imperial counterattack, bringing, with her fleet numbering in the tens of thousands. The final battle between humanity and the Galactic Empire was about to begin. The only question was whether the galaxy's fire would consume the Empire, or if the Empire would succeed in extinguishing humanity's flame forever. The Zephyr Prime system blazed like a jewel in the darkness of space. 3 artificial rings surrounded the Imperial capital's star, each one larger than Earth's orbit. Millions of crystalline ships moved between the rings like fireflies around a campfire, their hulls reflecting the controlled stellar radiation that powered the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Defiant, and watched the tactical display with grim determination. His combined fleet of human ships and alien allies numbered nearly 2,000 vessels, the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Yet they were still outnumbered by the defensive forces protecting the Imperial capital. Final status. Report, Jake ordered. Captain Scott Miller, now serving as his fleet coordinator, consulted displays throughout the bridge. All human vessels report ready. The Torani mining fleet is in position on our left flank. The Meriani waterships have taken position to attack the lower orbital ring. The Luxori energy beings are ready to disrupt Imperial communications on your command. Jake nodded. The alliance that humanity had forged was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were now fighting side by side for their freedom, but the Empire was not defenseless. Admiral, Dr. Lisa Hayes called from her science station. I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. The Zephyrians are doing something to their star. On the bridge of her crystal palace at the center of the defensive formations, Empress Veltara gazed out at the approaching rebel fleet with cold calculation. She had ruled the galaxy for over 2 centuries, maintaining peace through overwhelming force and abundant energy. Now a primitive species threatened everything she had built. Science Counselor, she commanded, initiate stellar overdrive protocols. Linara's crystalline features showed concern. Your Majesty, forcing the star into early supernova is extremely dangerous. The energy release could destroy our own forces. Better to rule over ashes than to allow these rebels to destroy the natural order. Veltara replied, if we cannot defeat them conventionally, we will take them with us into death. At least the galaxy will remember that the Empire could not be conquered. The star at the center of the system began to change. Its normally steady output fluctuated wildly as Zephyrian technology forced nuclear reactions to accelerate beyond safe parameters. Within hours, the star would explode with enough force to sterilize every planet in the system. Captain Julie Brooks detected the stellar changes from her position aboard the assault ship UES Thunder. Admiral Morrison, the enemy is destabilizing their own star. If we don't finish this battle quickly, the supernova will kill everyone in the system. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Empress Veltara was willing to commit suicide rather than accept defeat. But humanity had not come this far to be stopped by an enemy's desperation. All ships commence final assault, he broadcast to his fleet. We have one chance to end this war. Don't waste it. The combined rebel fleet surged toward the Imperial defenses like a wave breaking against a crystal shore. Zephyrian energy weapons lanced out to meet them, and space erupted in fire as thousands of ships engaged in the largest battle in galactic history. Commander Danny Lee led boarding parties against the outer defensive ring, his Marines fighting through corridors of living crystal as they captured strategic positions. The hand-to-hand combat was brutal, but the aliens had grown soft after millennia of technological dominance. The Imperial troops aren't used to real fighting, Danny reported, as his team secured another weapons platform. They've been winning, through superior firepower for so long that they've forgotten how to fight when the odds are even. Captain Chris Nelson's squadron punched through the middle defensive ring, his hybrid ships using their combined human-alien technology to devastating effect. The Imperial vessels were more powerful, but they couldn't adapt to the unusual combination of technologies that the rebels employed. Their tactical systems keep trying to analyze our capabilities, Chris transmitted. But they can't categorize ships that use both human engineering and alien power sources. We're confusing their targeting computers. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Captain Ryan Clark, leading a small infiltration force, had managed to reach one of the massive energy collection stations that drew power from the destabilizing star. "Admiral," Ryan transmitted, "I'm inside their primary stellar collection facility. If Captain Miller can get close enough with the disruption matrix, we might be able to reverse their supernova process and turn it back on them." Jake looked at his tactical display. Captain Miller's experimental ship was on the far side of the battle, fighting its way through layers of Imperial defenders. Getting to the collection station would require running a gauntlet of enemy fire. "Scott, can you make it?" Jake asked over the communication system. "I'll make it, sir," came the reply. "My crew didn't come this far to give up now." The UES Innovation turned toward the heart of the system, its engines burning at maximum output as it raced toward the stellar collection station. Imperial ships converged on it like antibodies attacking an infection, but the ship's hybrid armor and redundant systems kept it flying, even as enemy fire tore through its hull. Dr. Marcus Webb's voice crackled over the communication system from the ship's science laboratory. "Range to target 50,000 kilometers. The disruption matrix is ready, but I need to synchronize it with Captain Clark's position inside the collection station." "Do it," Captain Miller ordered as his ship shuddered under enemy fire. The stellar disruption matrix activated just as the star reached critical instability, but instead of simply disrupting the Zephyrian collection systems, the quantum interference patterns interacted with the forced supernova in ways that no one had anticipated. The star's energy output, instead of exploding outward in a devastating supernova, began to flow backward through the Imperial collection network. Every Zephyrian ship, every orbital platform, every crystal palace connected to the stellar power grid suddenly found itself trying to absorb the entire output of an unstable star. Empress Veltara watched in horror as her flagship's power systems overloaded catastrophically. "What is happening?" she demanded. "The humans have reversed our stellar collection process," Science Counselor Linera reported, her voice filled with disbelief. "Instead of drawing power from the star, we're being forced to absorb its entire output. Our systems can't handle this much energy." Throughout the system, Imperial ships began to explode as their energy absorption systems overloaded. The crystal rings around the star cracked and shattered, releasing stored energy in brilliant flashes that lit up space like fireworks. Admiral Jake Morrison watched the destruction with a mixture of awe and horror. Humanity had won, but the cost was almost unimaginable. An entire star system was being consumed by its own energy as the Imperial infrastructure collapsed. "All ships withdraw to minimum safe distance," he ordered. "Prepare to assist survivors." But Empress Veltara's flagship was not finished. Even as her ship's systems failed around her, she managed to open a communication channel to the human fleet. "Human Admiral," she said, her crystalline features cracked and flickering as her ship's power failed. "You have achieved something remarkable. You have not simply defeated an empire. You have proven that freedom is stronger than tyranny, that cooperation is more powerful than domination." Jake looked at the dying Empress with something approaching respect. "Your Majesty, we didn't want to destroy your empire. We just wanted to be free." "I know," Veltara replied. "And that is why you have won. The empire sought to impose order through force. You have created unity through choice. Perhaps this was inevitable." Her image flickered and disappeared as her ship's power systems finally collapsed entirely. In the aftermath of the battle, rescue ships from both sides worked together to save survivors. The artificial rings around Zephyr Prime were gone, and the star had returned to stable fusion, but the Imperial capital system would never recover its former glory. Captain Julie Brooks coordinated relief efforts, working alongside former Imperial officers who had survived the destruction of their fleet. "It's strange," she commented to Admiral Morrison. "A few hours ago we were trying to kill each other. Now we're working together to save lives." "That's what happens when people have a choice," Jake replied. "Most beings want to live in peace. It was the Empire's system that forced them to fight." Over the following months, news of the Imperial defeat spread throughout the galaxy. On world after world, local governments declared independence from Imperial rule. Some maintained ties with the surviving Zephyrian colonies, while others chose to join humanity's growing coalition of free worlds. Dr. Lisa Hayes established the Galactic Institute of Technology on the former Imperial capital world, sharing knowledge freely among all species, while ensuring that no single civilization could dominate others through technological superiority. The Zephyrians made one critical mistake, she explained to a gathering of representatives from hundreds of worlds. They became completely dependent on a single technology. When that technology failed, their entire civilization collapsed. We must never let that happen again,